All right. Hello, everybody. Hope you all are doing well. This is DFS Army's tournament strategy show where we will look back at last night's slate, see what went well, what didn't go as well, and then we will game plan today's slate and just talk through potential leverage plays, guys we like, guys that stand out. And then pre-lock show, which is at 5:30 p.m. Eastern, is all about execution, and I'll just show what I'm doing on the slate. Also, it's an NCAA day. Are there people watching NBA basketball today? There is one game that's pretty interesting. My eye will be on NCAA, but there's still money to be made in NBA DFS, so I'll definitely still have my toe in. Zolo, what's up, man? People were talking about you yesterday, and you weren't here. Hope you're doing all right, man. Let's look at last night's slate. I don't have a screenshot to share, but the top line I saw had 341 fantasy points. I'm sure there might have been a lineup out there with more. It had SGA in it going up against Utah. We forced exposure to him. That wasn't a situation that was a surprise to us. Grayson Allen went off on one of his random performances. This happens every so often, especially in a soft matchup against the Sixers. No one played him, but he was in the highest line I saw. Jake LaRavia was a guy I believe we talked about on this show. If not, we definitely talked about him on the pre-lock show. He was someone that I had some exposure to, but wasn't someone that was much of a priority. He also didn't crush or anything. He was just there. I think the thing that hurt me the most was Stanley Umude sucking. He was god-awful last night. Really him. He was really the main piece. And some of the other value didn't really come through. Nicholas Batum was in this line, even though he didn't do well. Chet was someone we forced exposure to. He was in this line going up against Utah. Again, they're bad everywhere. Chris Paul was a random appearance. He went off last night. Last night had a good amount of randomness to it. Andrew Wiggins showed his face for the first time in a little bit. Again, going up against the Grizzlies, none of that's overly surprising. And then Karis LeVert got there as well. We talked about him on the pre-lock show. Someone was talking about adding him as a last piece. I hope you did because he went off. That was great. So that was last night. Wasn't my best night. I did not do great. There were DFS Army members who did well. Upper Slad, one of the DFS coaches, had a profitable night. So definitely was the potential there. I had quite a few leverage plays go great. Like Jimmy Butler was a leverage play. That went pretty well. Jared Allen was a leverage play, significantly over the field on him. That went great. So it was a little bit of a mixed bag for me, but it is what it is. I miss the DFS Army fam. Been into prop betting and not DFS as much. I get it. Prop betting's fun. I've been into just betting in general, like money lines and spreads, and I've been having a lot of success with that. But so that's been fantastic. So happy that's legal here now. But yeah, I feel you. Wiggins cost me so much money the other day. Yeah. Random appearances. Thomas still on an L. Dang, man. I know for me, yesterday was profitable. No. The day before yesterday was profitable. Today, last night was an L. So I feel you. What's up, JM? Hopefully we can turn it around today. I do like this slate. So let's look at what we have so far. We don't have ownership yet, but we will have that here soon. Starting off, we have one of my favorite games on this slate. There's a lot of ugly here. This is one of the few good spots. Thankfully, the Kings didn't have to play too much last night because they destroyed the Raptors, which means I'm not overly concerned about the back-to-back here, but it is worth mentioning. Kevin Huerter is currently listed as TBD, so he was out last night. That's why we saw guys like Keon Ellis, Malik Monk, Keegan Murray see a bit of a boost for us yesterday. Kevin Huerter, if he plays, I'm a little bit more nervous about some of the role players here, but it's such a soft matchup going up against the Wizards. I am still going to like Malik Monk tonight. I'm still going to want some exposure to Monk and Murray. My excitement just goes down a little bit if Huerter ends up getting ruled into play tonight. De'Aaron Fox and Sabonis both disappointed a good bit last night, but that really was because they blew them out. There's a chance the Kings can blow out the Wizards here as well, but I like the matchup enough where I'm still willing to take that shot, and maybe ownership will be a little bit lower because people are nervous about it. I doubt it. I highly doubt it, but wishful thinking. I plan on being significantly over the field to Sabonis. He's my favorite pay-up option on the slate. We know the Wizards struggle against centers. They struggle everywhere. This is kind of like the Jazz yesterday. The Wizards are giving up the most fantasy points in the NBA to scoring wings. So that's guys like Keegan Murray. They're giving up the most fantasy points to post bigs. They're also giving up the second most fantasy points to versatile bigs like the Sabonis. They're giving up the second most fantasy points to combo guards like the Aaron Fox. They're bad. They're bad. I don't think I need to say anything else there. That's why I'm playing so much of these guys, because the Wizards are that bad. Prop betting has been bad for me, so I'm back on DFS today. I've never been a big prop betting better. I really do just like lines and spreads. Sometimes I'll dip my toe into some unders and overs, but that's really for the Sharp app. I don't like to promote too much, but the Sharp app is on point. Yesterday, at least when it came to some of the plays they had, I know Madness had a pretty good play in the Sharp app. Bucks plus 11. That went pretty well too, which was nice. Which game do you think stays close, Wizards or Jazz? I mean, likely to stay close, probably neither, but I'm hoping they both stay close for long enough. That's the thing that I've started to put a bit more of a priority on. I don't expect these games to stay close, but here lately we've seen some of these games stay close at least going into the fourth, and then they start to blow out. So it's not really a question on how close will these games stay, but will they stay close long enough for our players to reach value? And that's why I still play these guys in really good matchups. So yeah, I like the Kings. Wow, we spent a lot of time on that. Not going to do that again, or I'll try. For the Wizards tonight, we have Deni Avdija listed as questionable. That's huge for this team. If he ends up getting ruled out, the main guys I would look at would be guys like Corey Kispert, Jordan Poole, Kyle Kuzma. There's other viable options as well, depending on who starts for him, but those would be my top priorities. I know a lot of us aren't looking to play Poole. I'm not looking to play Poole tonight, but if Avdija gets ruled out, I'm open to it. Rashawn Holmes is also listed as questionable, so it would be very interesting to see. I would assume Kyle Kuzma would move to the 5 if he gets ruled out, but that's something we just need to kind of wait and see. That could give another guy like Kispert or Champagne or Champagny, however he pronounces it, it could move them into the starting lineup, or someone else that we're not even thinking about yet. So injury news will matter for this Wizards team if they end up getting ruled out. So keep a close eye out for that. For now, though, if Deni Avdija plays, he's someone I want exposure to. I say it all the time. In these high total game environments, I do force exposure to guys who are in decent spots. The matchup going up against Sacramento these days isn't really bad. They're giving up the 7th most points to versatile forwards, which is a solid spot for Deni Avdija and Kyle Kuzma tonight. So I'm looking at forcing exposure to both Kuzma and Avdija, and then if Avdija gets ruled out, that excitement moves towards Jordan Poole, which is a hell of a thing to say, but it's true. I think we're getting into the part of the season where bad teams are starting to tank. Yeah, for sure. But even still, which is why I do expect these games to not stay close, it just depends on how much some of these players are still willing to play for their job, And so we do get to the point now where we start to think about what do teams have to play for. And so that's why I like still playing some of these good teams. And we saw it last night with guys like Chris Paul and Andrew Wiggins starting to wake up. That's some playoff push mentality that we haven't really seen so far this season consistently. But you're right. Yeah, Rashawn Holmes revenge game. I forgot about that. He's been on a few different teams. But yeah, Deni Avdija I would force exposure to, and Kyle Kuzma depending on who plays. Next up, we have a game that's an interesting one. If we looked at this Pelicans against the Magic game earlier this season, no one would have much interest in it. I doubt anyone has interest in it now, but at least these two teams are competitive, and they're pretty solid NBA teams right now. And one thing that makes them not exciting from a DFS perspective is that they are both healthy and both pretty good defenses. And so for me, this was a pretty easy game to just X off. It's possible Zion can go off or CJ can go off, but the matchup against the Magic just doesn't stand out for me, so I didn't force it. I don't know if this was a sharp app play or not, so I don't really want to say it if it wasn't something that I just came up with originally. It doesn't matter. I did take the spread on the Magic just because I do like them both. And so with a little bit of an edge on the Magic, plus 2.5, I was like, yeah, why not? I'll take that shot. And then for the Magic tonight, similar situation. They're healthy and they're going up against a tight, really good defense. And so can Paolo or Suggs or Franz get hot tonight? Yeah, they can. But there's other plays on this slate that stood out a lot more for me. And so, again, this was just a game I moved past. The Knicks Nuggets game is similar, but the sim model still liked a couple of plays from that game. You guys know I hate the Nets. I hate the Nets. I hate the Grizzlies. I hate the Warriors because those are just teams that annoy the living hell out of me. But they're facing the Bucks tonight, and the Bucks, although they have improved defensively and they're getting better and better every game, even at the point guard position, they're improving. Their entire team is improving from a defensive standpoint. Some of these Nets players are cheap, and on a slate like this where we have 6 games and no one here is too expensive, I'm willing to take some shots. We don't have ownership yet, so I don't know how chalky these guys are going to be. If Mikal Bridges is really chalky, and when I say really, I mean like 20 to 30% ownership or projected ownership, I'm willing to have a little bit of exposure, but I'm not trying to force him in. If he's only 5 to 10% owned or projected to be owned around that much, I would be very comfortable just kind of having 10, 15% exposure to him at 6,700. A little cheap. He hasn't been the all-star we thought he would be this season, but I like the price tag. And then Cam Thomas, I like playing guards against the Bucks. The Bucks are still giving the 10th most points, fantasy points, to point guards this season. And so if I'm going to pick on the Bucks with someone that's a little bit more expensive, like 7,200, like Cam Thomas, I'm going to take a shot on a guard here. So I don't love the price tag on Cam Thomas. We know he can be a bit streaky, but just because it is a guard going up against the Bucks and we know he has upside, 7,200 feels like a decent spot for him, for me. All right. So yeah, those are really the only 2 Nets players that are standing out for me so far. And I'm not really trying to go out of my way to play the Nets tonight, so I'm okay with that. And then for the Bucks, injury news for the Nets. Dorian Finney-Smith is out. Nick Claxton is questionable. Nick Claxton being questionable does matter. We'll have to keep a close eye out for that. The Bucks have Giannis listed as TBD. Chris Middleton is uncertain to play. This is one of those situations where if Giannis is out, I'm going to play Damian Lillard again. That didn't work out very well yesterday, even though Drew Holiday was out, but I'm still willing to go back here if Giannis is out. Bobby Portis has been solid so far in these spots. Matchup against the Nets is not my favorite typically. It's usually just a pretty bleh matchup. But I am open to taking a shot there if Giannis is out. 6,700, that's a little bit cheaper than we had yesterday, isn't it? No, I'm wrong. That's 700 more. He's only getting more expensive. He did well last night, though. And let's see. 6.7. We need him to score 40 points once again, which definitely a tougher matchup, but he's been in good form. As long as he's not over 7K, I'm comfortable taking a shot on him if Giannis is out again. Brook Lopez would be a little bit interesting to me if Nick Claxton gets ruled out, similar to yesterday with Jared Allen. That kind of play. If the opposing center is out, I like to play the center who's going to have a softer matchup. So right now, the only Bucks player I'm looking at is Giannis, but if he ends up not playing tonight, things get way more interesting. All right. Then we have the Bulls going up against the Rockets. Let's see. Yeah, Jalen Suggs has been like that all season, man. I think it was probably the first week he had like a 40-point performance of the season. And it's really kind of like once or twice a month, he'll just go off. And it's pretty hard to predict, but you just have to know it's possible. This matchup, he didn't stand out for me at all, though. And I prefer playing him when there's other guards out, but they're pretty healthy right now. But he can still do it. CJ is starting to get more involved scoring-wise. Yeah. The Pelicans are a pain when they're healthy. It's just tough. They just take turns. The Nets, oh my God, terrible. Yeah, so bad. Cam Thomas, yep. See, Zolo, we're on the same page right now. We're on the same page. Yeah, if you're taking a shot on the Magic tonight, yeah, I just didn't play that game. But you can definitely take one-off shots on some of those players, but personally, I didn't get there. And then for the Bulls tonight, this is a little weird for me because I usually end up forcing some exposure to these guys, especially Vucevic. Vucevic is almost always my go-to guy, but unfortunately, they're just not standing out a lot for me here. Kobe White's questionable. If he ends up playing, that really makes plays like Ayo and Caruso way less interesting. Caruso is questionable as well. If Caruso gets ruled out, that does make Ayo a bit more viable, especially if Kobe White and Caruso end up not playing tonight. We have seen Torrey Craig be a bit more involved as well when Caruso's ruled out. Still don't think I would try to force that play in, but we'll have to wait and see what projections do. If it happens naturally, I'll probably cool it off a little bit because he's not the highest usage player, but I'll be okay with a little bit of exposure. And let's see. That's pretty much it. Yeah. None of the Bulls are standing out for me too much. The Rockets have surprisingly only gotten better over the last few games. Without Şengün, they're winning. Their offensive rating is only increasing. The Rockets are a weird team right now. And so, yeah, the Bulls just didn't stand out for me. No one is showing up a lot for me in my early runs. The Rockets is a little bit of a different story. I don't think the Rockets are looking too popular tonight just because people see the relatively low total. The spread is close, though, and I do like a competitive environment. Also, the Bulls have been struggling. They currently have the 5th worst defensive rating in March. And so the defense that was decent or at least average for a lot of this season is really starting to go downhill. And so I'm looking to play the Rockets tonight. I'm kind of taking a bit of a wait and see approach to see what ownership looks like on a few of them. But Fred VanVleet is someone that I'm pretty certain I'll end up having exposure to, again, depending on ownership. I don't love playing Dylan Brooks, but if he shows up a little bit, I don't hate it. Amin Thompson at 6,300. I would love to see him be pretty relatively low owned today. If he's around like 5 to 10% ownership, pretty decent chance he might be a leverage play for me tonight. But Jalen Green, as of right now, is really the only priority I have here. He's been fantastic ever since Şengün has gone down, and I'm going to make sure I'm over the field on Green tonight if he's not super chalk. And my line there on super chalk is I'm hoping he's not over 30-40% owned. I have, again, we're still waiting on ownership, so hard to really know what that will look like, but would love for him to be a little bit under owned. This Jazz Mavs game is terrifying because of the wide spread. There's a really good chance this game blows out, but hoping, again, you see it every slate. You can try and play for the blowout, but if you avoid the blowout, you're probably going to get burned because those players go off because they had a soft matchup. For me, it's kind of like when you're playing a drinking game of trying to guess if the card coming up is going to be red or black. It's usually better to just kind of stick to the same color, and then your process is a bit more streamlined and you end up not drinking as much. So for me, in this example, when there's wide spreads, I just don't play for blowouts if the matchup is soft. And so the matchup is soft for the Mavs because the Jazz suck everywhere. This game could end up being a little bit closer if Lauri Markkanen playing tonight. He's listed as available. Jordan Clarkson's listed as TBD, so that will spice things up a little bit if he ends up playing, in the sense that it would really make it pretty easy for me not to even consider guys like Sexton or Keontae George. Whereas if Clarkson is out, then I would consider taking shots on Sexton and George because of the high game total. And if the Jazz are able to keep this game a little bit closer than we expect, it wouldn't shock me if we see a Sexton or George go off if Clarkson's out. The guy I'm going to take a stand on here is Lauri Markkanen. I like picking on the Mavs with bigs, and Lauri Markkanen's still relatively cheap at 8K. And so with him playing tonight, again, still waiting on ownership, he's someone I am willing to commit to as long as he's not too chalky. The Mavs, you got to play Luka, right? You just got to play Luka. That's it. On every slate, especially in soft matchups, the blowout is definitely a concern. The price tag on Luka it's hard to pay for because we don't have fantastic value on this slate, but he should do his thing, and I'm going to try and match the field on him as soon as, as much as I possibly can. So I'm going to keep a close eye out on that. Kyrie has been awesome, but that price tag's getting a little crazy for me. Not trying to go there. Gafford at 5,700 did stand out for me in the sim model. Matchup against the Jazz is fantastic. Again, ownership will once again depend on how much exposure I have to Gafford, but I would like to see him show up a little bit. Yeah, Houston has a real coach, and I agree, especially if they continue to just add more pieces. They might be scary here soon, kind of like OKC, potentially. That's a little bit of a stretch. That's a little bit of a stretch. I need to calm down, but we'll see. Dante Exum may be the best value play on this slate. Potentially. I mean, we don't have a lot of great value I love. Exum is projecting decently well, where I'm okay with them. I'm not going to force him in, but he can make some things work. Fading Thompson, he will not continue shooting at those percentages. Yeah, I doubt it. For me, it's just his price tag. I'm expecting some negative regression, but I just like him at 6,700. Jalen Green has been balling ever since he had his son. He did say, I saw that interview where he was like, it's family. It's family. That's what's really got me focused. And who am I to say he's wrong when he's only proven it? So hopefully he can keep it up. I love it. Yeah, agreed. Yeah, Washington's a decent play too at 5K. His minutes are a bit more secured. The matchup's fantastic. I have absolutely nothing against PJ Washington. Decent mention. For me, I am hoping he'll show up by the time we get to the pre-lock show. He wasn't showing up in some of my early runs. He did stand out a little bit on the sim model, but not enough for me to put a like on him or anything. For the way I'm looking at it is ideally he'll just show up naturally. Exum revenge game. I don't have a lot of Exum history knowledge, so I don't even remember him being on the Jazz, but I remember the Jazz did have a lot of randoms for a good bit, so that doesn't shock me. So you might be onto something there. You and Shooter both on Exum. All right, for the Knicks, this was a team I was not planning on forcing too much exposure to, but the sim model likes these guys, so I'll try and get some exposure. Again, the matchup against the Nuggets is not a good one. They are a really good defense. Similar situation for the Knicks. So the best thing going for us is really just hoping this game stays close and they play at a faster pace than these teams typically do. Josh Hart at 7,300 is a sim model play. I can pull it up. 7,300. We look at Josh Hart. We go to the 8X column, and we see that Josh Hart is standing out here. I do like Cam Thomas a bit more. The sim model does too, but I'll make sure, or at least I'll try to at least be around field weight on Hart tonight. And then next up, we have Dante DiVincenzo, who's cooled off a good bit over the last few weeks, but at 6,400, he's not that pricey. He doesn't stand out that much. This 6K range has a lot of decent viable value options, or not value options, but just a lot of viable plays in this range. And so he doesn't stand out too much. You see guys like Bobby Portis, Malik Monk standing out a little bit more, Michael Porter Jr., even CJ. Like a lot of these guys are standing out here in the sim model, but DiVincenzo at 2.2% stood out a little bit more for me at his price tag. So another guy I'm not expecting to be too chalky. I'll probably only have like 5 to 10% above him and Josh Hart, but that's enough to keep me interested. And then Miles McBride at 4,700 is just really a pure sim model play. Trusting it here. 4,700, 15.5% in the 8x column. Worth taking a shot here. I doubt he'll be super chalky, but the minutes are there. They run these players into the ground on the Knicks. The matchup's terrible, but we're lacking great value on this slate, so I'm open to adding him into the mix when the sim model likes him. So that's where that like came from. And then for the Nuggets, you got to play Jokic. There's a lot of studs on this slate. It gets a little bit easier if Giannis gets ruled out. I'm going to try and balance and spread my exposures to the studs tonight. But if I can't fit Jokic, Giannis, Doncic, and Sabonis, the first two to fall for me are Jokic and Giannis. I'm prioritizing Sabonis, Doncic, Giannis, Jokic is my rating. Ideally, I'll be able to match the field on all of them, but if I can't, it is what it is. We can't play everybody all the time. I might just play President's last names on this slate. That's good. Jokic has played well against the Knicks historically, but I don't like attacking the Knicks. Exactly. That's my thought process too. Not my favorite thing to do, but if it makes sense, it makes sense. So, gonna try to match the field, but if I can't get there, he's the first to fall. Brunson has been going crazy. Will we see a guard battle tonight against Murray and Brunson? Yeah, I do like Jamal Murray. Thank you for reminding me of that. It wouldn't shock me. The sim model liked Brunson a little bit too, if I'm remembering correctly, at 9,100. Nope, never mind. It hates him. It absolutely hates Brunson. So yeah, I didn't really look at him at all. But I do like Murray, and we know Brunson's still the guy, so it wouldn't shock me if there's a bit of back and forth there. I see what you're saying. I think the reason the sim model doesn't like him as much is just his price tag. He's a little expensive in a tough matchup and a low game total. Whereas Murray's about 1,000 or 700 cheaper than Brunson, and so it's just a little bit easier for him to get there. McBride lock. All right. And DiVincenzo's in your single entry. All right. We're on the same page. Who gets the triple double? Who gets the triple double faster today from the pay ups? Sabonis for me. 200. Yeah. That's why I am hoping ownership is low on these guys. I doubt ownership will be low on Murray. But when it comes to the Knicks and the guys I like here, I'm hoping I can only have like 5, maybe 10% exposure here. If these guys are seeing 20 to 30% ownership, probably going to be a pass for me, y'all. Probably going to be a pass for me. But for now, they're sending out enough where I'm comfortable having 5 to 10%. I'm not trying to go too crazy. And then, of course, pre-lock show, 5:30 p.m. Eastern today. Hopefully, everyone's not too wasted watching college basketball. But, I'll be there 5:30 p.m. We'll break down this slate. We'll talk through who the men's are, who the leverage plays are, who the core plays are, and we'll go from there. But appreciate y'all for supporting and watching. If y'all could like and subscribe, that would be super helpful. But if not, I'll see y'all later today at 5:30 and or tomorrow. Peace out, y'all. Have a good one. Enjoy some basketball.